Guys, these are some of the big mistakes I'm seeing expats still making in the Philippines. It's made by guys that have been here for years and guys that just arrived. So hopefully I can give you a few pointers here, a little bit of advice, maybe save you from having some heartache and some problems in the future. One of them that I see over and over again is guys are desperate to get here and they're afraid that there's not going to be a nice apartment or nice house for them to rent. So they go online and they find an apartment or a house and they're so afraid they're going to lose it because the landlord will say, well, we've got 2 or 3 other people looking at it, there's not very many left. And so they'll agree to sign a 1-year lease and sometimes even pay a whole year in advance. I've seen guys do this where they didn't even get a discount. They paid a whole year in advance. They finally get here and they move into the apartment or the house and they find out that the plumbing doesn't work right, or they find out that the neighbor on Saturday nights has a karaoke machine, or the neighbor has a dog that barks all night long, and they're stuck for a whole year. And it's just one of those things you don't want to do. I mean, every place I've ever lived, including where I'm at now, which I may spend the rest of my life here, I love it here so much, but I'm month to month. 1 month down, 1 month deposit, that's it. And that's what I've done every place that I've lived so far. This is my 4th place that I've lived in the Philippines. So don't sign a 1-year lease. Just give yourself that flexibility. Nobody's going to take it away from you. Once you move in someplace, if you're a good tenant, pay your rent on time, nobody's going to make you move out. So just save your money. You know, it's good to have that money for a rainy day if something goes wrong, or you decide you want to go back to your own country, or you want to go to another island. You know, give yourself the flexibility. The other thing, I've seen at least 3 guys that are subscribers to my channel do this. They build a house for a Filipina that they've never even met in person. They haven't even met her. They know her online. They've been chatting for so many months. This happened a lot during COVID. And so, well, you know, I want to show you how, you know, sincere I am and I really care about you. And so these guys start sending large chunks of cash over to the Philippines. And some cases, the girl just kept the money. Other cases, they built the house, and when they got there, it wasn't what they expected. I know one case where she built the house, and he finally got over there to see her for the very first time in person. You know, they were chatting every day online. He gets over there, and the house is okay, but she's got her mother, father, brothers all living there. And after a couple days of him sleeping on the floor, she says, you know, I just don't think this is going to work out. You got to go. And so he's thrown away all that money for a house that he doesn't even own. So there's nothing wrong with building a house here. A lot of my friends have built houses here, or in the process of building houses. And it's all fine, I think, if you're married. You got to be married to the girl. You're married to her, you know it's a solid relationship. This is who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and you're doing it for her. And if you're married to her, you know, I think it's perfectly fine to go ahead and build a house here in the Philippines, you know. But you got to make sure you get a lawyer to check on the property, make sure that it's free and clear, to make sure the access road is free and clear, and you know, really check things out, and make sure you get a really good contractor too, because I see that too, where a lot of people have houses built and they're not the way they're supposed to be as far as construction. And so that's one thing that you really want to watch out for. Another one I see, and it hasn't happened that many times, but it has happened probably about a dozen times in the last, you know, 4.5, 5 years. I see these guys that they've had motorcycles back at home and wherever they lived, and they want to recreate what they had when they were in their youth, or what they had back in America, Australia, or whatever. So they buy a big, powerful, overpowered bike. Like this one guy bought a Kawasaki, I think it was a 600, one of those pocket rocket things, and he bought all the gear for it, you know, the helmet, the leathers, all that stuff, racing up and down National Highway, you know, 80, 90 miles an hour, and most people are going 30 or 40. And guess what? Eventually had a very bad, serious accident. Another guy did the same thing. He was on another high-powered motorcycle, ended up in a ditch, knocked himself out, drowned and died. So. And then there's just numerous accidents where you hear people wrecking on these big bikes. I know guys that right now he's recovering from a motorcycle accident on a Harley Davidson back in his home country. And As soon as he gets better, he's still got broken ribs and everything. As soon as he gets better, what's he going to do? He's going to buy himself a great big Harley and ride around here in the Philippines. First of all, the roads just aren't really designed for that. Yeah, we've got, National Highway, and we've got another road that they just built that's, a fairly decent road. But the problem is, over here, it's called Diversion Road, and it's the one for the airport. But there's rocks in the roads here. You'll find obstacles, sudden, lanes will suddenly end, dogs out there, people driving at night with no lights on their bikes or their tricycles or whatever. And it's just not designed for someone who's going to drive fast. I mean, you can't drive even 60 miles an hour here. It's like everywhere I go, I'm pretty much right around maximum 40 miles an hour, and that's speeding. Normally I'm like, 35. So anyway, high-powered motorcycles are just something you don't want to do. And then another thing that I see all the time, I had one of my friends do it just the other night, and tried to talk him out of it, did it anyway. Driving drunk. I see it all the time. They're down at the bars downtown, or they're home, and they're drunk, and they decide they're hungry, they want to go get something to eat, or the girl wants to go get something to eat, so they hop on the motorbike or motorcycle or in the car, and off they go drunk. Now here in the Philippines, there are not any checkpoints with breathalyzers. I don't even know if they have breathalyzers, the police. If you have a wreck and they think you're drunk, they're going to charge you with it, one way or the other. But driving drunk is like the stupidest thing you can do in the Philippines. Most of these guys are older, 60 and up, and so your reaction time, your eyesight, your hearing, everything is diminished from what it was when you were younger. And so you're out there speeding, and you're drunk, and you're on a motorcycle, which you haven't ridden one since you were a teenager, and it's just asking for an accident. And the worst thing is you usually have a girl on the back. So it's one thing if you kill yourself, it's another thing if you injure some young Filipina just because you were being stupid. So, don't drink and drive. Here in Dumaguete on Negros, we have a thing called tricycles, and it's like a motorcycle with a sidecar. And they're dirt cheap to go on, like it's 25 pesos. You can flag one of those down any time of day, and I've seen them out at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you can get a tricycle, give them a couple hundred pesos to take you right to your front door, and you can pick your motorcycle up the next day if you've been drinking. So that's just something that, it's just common sense. It really is. You don't drink and drive, in any country, but especially in the Philippines. The next thing is having a plan for a medical emergency. I talked about this, in another video not long ago called "Now You're Dead, So What?" So you're dead, now what? And these guys, a lot of them just got their head in the sand. They assume that, now that they're living in this beautiful country and they've got a young girlfriend, they've got lots of friends, and they just kind of assume, they start thinking like they did when they were in their 20s and 30s, believing that, when you're that age, you think you're invincible. You think that, you can survive anything. But it doesn't work that way. I know so many guys who've had a heart attack, came down with cancer, had a motorbike accident, whatever, some type of medical emergency, and they had absolutely no plan at all. They didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't have a bunch of cash put aside, which is a good thing. Keep, $500 or $1,000 US stored someplace in your house. So if you're in the hospital and you got to pay because you got to pay in advance here. So you have to pay the hospital something, $500 to $1,000 would be enough to get things taken care of and get you, into surgery or get the test that you need or whatever. But have that money around, or have credit cards, and make sure it's your girlfriend or a friend, somebody you can trust, knows where those credit cards are. Make sure somebody knows where your PIN number is for your debit card if they have to get cash out. So obviously somebody that you trust. If you're living with a girl, whether you're married or not, if you don't trust her enough to have the PIN number to your debit card, then what are you even living with her for? If you can't trust her that much. Like my wife's got the PIN numbers to my cards, and I know that if something ever happened to me, at least she has access to what money we've got left. So I think that's something really important to do. So make sure you do that. Have some kind of a plan, write it down. Maybe have a list of all your family members with their phone numbers and their emails, or have it on your phone. Don't have your phone locked, by the way. That's another thing. Like, I know somebody got into a bad accident and they were unable to communicate, and they couldn't tell anybody how to get in their phone. And in there had all the information, their families, you know, phone numbers, emails, bank account information, all that stuff locked up in their phone because his girlfriend didn't have the password for the phone. So, you know, have some kind of a plan. It just takes a few minutes to put something together. Another thing I see here, guys, if you've got a temper, if you're one of those guys that just doesn't have any patience and you lose your temper, you get impatient easily, you know, the Philippines probably isn't the country for you. And I see this every once in a while. You've got a foreigner, it doesn't matter if it's American or not, but the Americans seem to be the ones that are most guilty of this, unfortunately. And that's losing their temper with government officials. This is a really foolish thing to do. If you're down there at immigration and you're trying to renew your visa, you're trying to do something that they say isn't possible or can't be done on the time frame that you want it done, and you're frustrated, be polite, say, you know, well, if there's any way you can help me out, I'd sure appreciate it. And just go away and come back another day. But these guys down there that lose their temper with a government official, they can just make sure that whatever it is you want done never gets done. Or they can make it take, you know, 5 times longer than it should. The same thing when I say government officials, same thing goes for like the police here. All the government officials, by the way, I've dealt with, you know, since I've been here, including immigration. I go down there every couple months. Super nice people. They're just so nice and friendly, even with the police. So every once in a while they throw up these roadblocks here. And they're checking for, you know, registrations, driver's licenses, making sure people wearing their helmet, which most of them don't. And so if you come up to a roadblock and they pull you over and they're asked to see your driver's license or your registration and you don't have it, or it's expired or whatever, and you know, they start to write you a ticket, you know, don't freak out, don't be rude to them, don't, because it's going to cost you nothing. The ticket here is like $10 maximum. And just say, oh, sorry about that, you know, I'll take care of it, you know, whatever, smile, be friendly, and it'll make your life a lot easier. But some of these guys, they throw attitude at government officials, and it's just a bad thing to do. And in that same line of things, I see guys who are over here, some of them been here for a long time, some of them, you know, are newbies, but sitting around in a group, you know, in a public place, and they're just trashing the Philippines. Oh, the food's terrible here, you know, the utilities here, the power goes out, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, why don't they do things better, why isn't the service better? And I found myself doing the same thing. I found myself sitting with friends and talking about, you know, the service in restaurants and things like that. But, you know, just remember, it's not your country. You're here as a guest. You can't change anything. You have no right to even ask them to change one single thing. It's just the way it is. If you don't like it, you can always go someplace else. But just try, you know, not to criticize the country, especially like politics too. Like if there's some kind of law or government official, whatever, just keep your nose out of that. Don't say anything online. Don't say anything in public. Again, it's not your country and you don't want to stir up trouble. So best to just keep your mouth shut about that. Another thing that I see happening here quite often is investing in a business, not with a Filipina, but with another foreigner. And I've seen so many guys get burned doing this. I mean, everybody wants to open a restaurant, open a bar, open a dive shop, whatever it is. And, you know, just be really careful. I mean, first of all, do you really need the money? If you're financially secure, you've got enough money coming in, you can retire. Why do you want to get involved in a business that's going to take up all your time, take up your money, and it could take years for you to get your money back. You may not get it back at all. I've seen guys lose a lot of money in businesses over here, usually with foreigners. It's usually a restaurant or a bar, but it can be any kind of thing. So really think twice. And then if you're going to get involved with somebody, go to a lawyer and have something drawn up, some kind of an agreement. Make it all in black and white so you know exactly what the agreement is. So you have some kind of recourse. And here in the Philippines, it's not like in America, you know, Australia, where you can sue somebody and get your money back or, you know, have them arrested, whatever. It's very difficult once your money's been given to somebody else to get it back. So be real careful about that. And then again on money, I see this all the time. Guys they're still doing it, even though COVID's over. They're sending huge amounts of money to girls they met online. And a lot of times these girls, they'll set them up and they'll say, well, I don't have any load from my phone. On these phones here, you pay as you go on the phones here. So to get load on a phone, like I spend at the most $10 a month on my phone. And so they'll say they don't have any load. So you want to send them, say 20 bucks a month or something, that's fine. But then what happens, oh, I lost my phone or my phone broke. Okay, so $500, $600 for a new phone, or my computer broke, or my mother's in a hospital, my brother's in the hospital. It's always something like that. And then they start needing large amounts of money, hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, or they're talking to a guy, and like I said, mentioned before, building a house, buying some property. And these guys are so desperate to make sure they don't lose this relationship that they start sending money every single month, and it's more and more and more. And then they get over here and they find out sometimes that she's also getting money from 4 or 5 other guys, and she has no intention of having a relationship with you, and it's just, you just threw your money away. So be real careful. I say, little bits of money so they can buy a load on their phone and pay for internet so they can talk to you, that's okay, but you're better off to wait until you get here and meet somebody and before you spend any money on them at all. And most of the good girls, and all the guys will tell you this, the good girls, the honest girls will never ask you for anything when you're dating them. Even if no matter how poor they are, they will never ask you for money or to buy them something. So those are the ones you want to look for. Finally, letting your tourist visa expire. I see this a lot, and I've seen it with guys that have been here for a long time, like especially the older guys. What will happen is they say, I'm never going to visit, another country. I'm never going to go home. I'm staying here in the Philippines forever. But they don't want to spend the money. They're on a limited budget. And so they never want to spend the money to renew their visa. And so they just let it lapse, because nobody's out here checking your visa. They're not like going door to door, checking your visa, or checkpoints, or going to the store and they want to see your visa or your passport. Once you're here, nobody bothers you. And so they think, well, I can just, skate along until I die and nobody's ever going to catch me, and I'm going to save myself, $60 a month or whatever it is, by not getting renewing my tourist visa or my retirement visa, whatever visa it is that you're under. And then what happens is they end up in the hospital or something. Or one case, when I first got here, this happened. There was a German guy, Ben, who's in his 70s, very fit guy, who used to go hiking the top of the mountains. His name was Wolfgang. And he had a girl that he wasn't living with her. He was actually paying for her to live in the house down the street from him with her 2 children that she had. She was a single mom. And so for several years they're together, she's his girlfriend. He's supporting her, supporting the children. And then he was not renewing his visa. He'd been here for many, many years, never renewed his visa, never left the country. And she knew this. She knew that he had never renewed his visa. Well, then he started having financial difficulties. Something happened and he lost his pension or his source of income, whatever that was. And he's basically, almost destitute. He had a tiny little bit of money coming in, but he was basically destitute. And so he told her, he said, I'm going to have to break up with you. I can't afford to support you and the kids anymore. I can't afford to pay a rent for 2 houses. And so he broke up with her, told her the truth about everything. But she got very angry about it, and she became vindictive. And so she wrote him a letter, and she told him that if he didn't start paying her again, supporting her again, she was going to turn him in to immigration for being on an expired visa. And you can end up in prison for that. They'll put you in jail and they'll keep you there until you can come up with the money. And sometimes there's one guy in there now that owes like $6,000, and he's been in jail for like 11 years because he's got nobody that'll pay it for him, no friends, no family. And so Wolfgang was in a similar situation. He owed, if they actually tallied up how much he owed, he hadn't paid his visa in probably 10 years, and it was going to be in the thousands of dollars, which he didn't have. So he hikes up on top of the mountain above Castorora Falls, and he just disappears, and everybody's looking for him. The police are looking for him. I was out with my friend Daryl. We were hiking around trying to find him. We thought he'd fallen down and hurt his leg or something. And he, like I said, very fit guy, climbed the top of the mountain all the time. Anyway, about 3 weeks later, they found him at the top of the mountain. He'd shot himself in the head. You know, all because of this letter that she wrote, all because he didn't pay his visa. And so all I can say is, again, you know, it's not your country. I don't know where you're from, but some countries will help you out if you get in trouble with an expired visa and you're under arrest or whatever. The U.S. Embassy isn't going to pay your visa fees. The only time they're going to help you out is they might loan you money if you're destitute to get you back to America, and that's it. But whether they'll pay your fines or stuff and get you out of jail, they're probably not going to do that, so you're on your own. So a lot of these guys that are over here, you know, they're estranged from their friends and family back home. They don't contact them in any way, and so, you know, they don't email them, they don't talk to them, they've had a falling out, whatever, and then all of a sudden they get in trouble and they've got nobody to help them. So it's important to have your friends here, you know, have your circle of friends, people you can trust, but one thing you don't want to do is let your visa expire. So that's pretty much it, guys. Got some good interviews coming up in the next couple of days here. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it when you subscribe to my channel and share my videos. And I always read all the comments too. I read every single comment. Sometimes it takes me hours. So thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. And we'll see you next time. Bye.